Welcome, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Fiscal Talk, where we are discussing how we do research on fiscalization. So, in the first episode, we talked about methods and steps when it comes to research. Today, we're talking about the problems that we encounter during this research. I am Anna Boschniak. I'm marketing assistant at Fiscal Solutions. And today with me is Stefan Ditrih, who is legal consultant at Fiscal Solutions and my dear colleague. So I would just jump into the topic right away and tell you that the name of the topic today is 5 problems that might occur when researching a new fiscal country. Okay, so Stefan, what is the first and main problem that we encounter?
Okay, thank you, Anna, for leading us into the topic of our second episode. In last episode, we talked about general methods of research. Well, where there's research, there are problems. And today we're going to cover 5 most important. There are more than 5 problems, but these are the most important problems we can encounter when researching a new fiscal country. The first problem is information that's hidden and not easily accessible. So not everything can be accessed online. Some websites require a subscription or to be a member of a certain organization in order to gather information. Some websites require you to be from that specific country in order to get some relevant information. There's a lot of payment when it comes to subscriptions, so sometimes you have to pay for a certain subscription to be granted access to more information, to the relevant documents that you might need when researching a fiscal country. Sometimes you have to get approval to access some of the information, so not everything is readily available online. And that is like the first and probably the most important problem, because fiscalization is not just that simple that you can Google something and the solution is right in front of you, because that most likely is not the case when it comes to fiscalization. Our second problem connected with researching is the language barrier. Of course, many different countries, many different languages, and most information regarding fiscalization is not readily available in English. As we know, there is no really international standard when it comes to fiscalization, so there's no unification. Most every country has a different fiscalization system in one way or another, and that's where the problems start, because you have to gather all the relevant documentation in foreign languages. Usually you don't really know every language, and it has to be translated into English in order to understand it, to check the authenticity of the data, and that can really delay your research process when it comes to the language barrier. Some first step will be some sort of machine translation, whether it's Google Translate or some other method, and then when it comes to going in depth into the research of a certain country, you will have to get a real translation by an official translator. And connected with the language barrier is definitely the different terminology that is used in different countries. So, for example, in many countries, for example, the receipt can have different names. It can be called a ticket, a bill, invoice. So it's important to differentiate and to understand what kind of terminology is used in certain country. In last episode, we mentioned that one of the first steps is to discern what kind of fiscalization system is used in that country. So, for example, once you understand that this particular country uses a hardware-based fiscalization system, then it will be easier to understand some of the terminology, because even if it's different. Because when you hear hardware-based fiscalization, you already kind of know what to expect, although it can be really different from what you expect. But at least it will give you some idea how to interpret some of the different terminology that is used in different countries for the same business process or same fiscal document. They can a lot of different terminology can happen in practice.
And what about the legal terminology? Because how do you understand what the law means? Can that be a problem too?
That is a very good question. And our fourth problem is different legal terminology and different legal logic. Very good question, Anna, because that is some of the problems we encounter daily. it's sometimes hard to determine what the legislator meant in certain law or certain article of the law because you are not in that specific country. You are removed from it, and it's hard to understand the logic sometimes that the legislator had when adopting a certain law, a certain bill, a certain bylaw, because um, it is important to get into the mind frame of the legislator to understand what they actually meant. Sometimes some legal documents can be very abstract, and for that specific country that could be normal, but for you, you need a little more detail, a little more substance. So it's important to get into the legal logic of that specific country to understand how these rules are applied in real life. In that sense, we already mentioned that it's important to create a partner network of local partners that can help you understand not just what is written in the law, but how to understand it, like what is the logic behind the law and how the law is applied in real life. And our fifth and final problem would be contradictory information.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that because everything revolves around internet. You try to find information on internet, and there are so many information can be put on internet that might or might not be true. So how do you figure out what you can actually listen to and what you should just ignore?
You're completely right, Anna. There is a lot of information on internet that's not easily verifiable. It can be very contradictory. You have to be very careful about when accessing information on the internet in fiscalization, but in general, but especially in fiscalization. And that's why, especially something that's very important for our clients needs to be double checked, triple checked, just to make sure that the information you're getting is valid, applicable, and compliant with the law. Again, that's where our local partners come in handy because they can also help us with discerning what information is valuable, what is the right information, and what is not. That's why it's important not just to have one source of information. Yes, the internet is a great source, it's a great pool of knowledge, but it's important to verify everything you read online with more than one contact in real life. That in that way you will be certain that at the end of the day you have the right information and the right information is passed on to our clients.
Absolutely, I agree with you. It can be exhausting, but it needs to be done.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for staying with us in this episode as well. Thank you, Stefan, for such amazing information.
Thank you for having me.
Next time we will talk about how you can know that your research was successful. And with the third episode, we will conclude this topic. And so stay tuned. The next episode is going to be equally exciting and interesting, or even more interesting, I think. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact Stefan via email, which I will put in the bio of Fiscal Talk. And of course, for more info, you can always visit our fiscal portal. Thank you for staying with us. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.